Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode
I know what number it is.
64
63. We are in episode 63.
of the Squadron podcast. This week, we're going to be talking about some tournaments that went down.
It's meta time, baby.
At the beginning of the set release. So this was between the 15th and the 17th of November at SCG Con in Columbus. Some really cool events going down there, one each day, 1K, a 2K, and another 1K.
Really varied results.
Really interesting results. So we're going to be going over a few of the decks, so a few of the set 3 decks that have come to light from that and that have done well, and going over kind of like the order of things and how they are, who's still in the meta, who's not so much in the meta. I didn't see any Boba at this one. I don't know why.
Yeah, not a single Boba Fett.
Yeah, I think he's just fallen off.
Admittedly, we here at the Spy Squadron always thought he was a pretty terrible leader.
Yeah, so you kind of understand why he's just not in the meta anymore.
Just mid.
So he got banned.
Anyway.
Suspended, sorry, my apologies.
So there were 3 days of this, and there was only one leader that really made a large-scale reoccurring appearance. But much like the last one that got suspended, there is familial ties.
Yeah, so there was a lot of Django Fett. So if we're gonna start with day 1, go into day 2, go to day 3, because it kind of shows an evolution in the meta. That is kind of what's happening. You may notice a new addition to my household running around at some point during this podcast, as I've gotten a kitten recently, and he is running around. So he might be on camera for a little bit. You're welcome. He's adorable.
He is adorable.
So, winner of day 1.
Oh, there he is. He popped up.
Winner of day 1 was Palpatine Yellow.
Good deck.
Yep, so we knew Palpatine Yellow was good from set 1, and you'll see a lot in this that's just kind of staple set 2 meta-relevant decks that people have just brought through. And you'll see that at the start of any new set that comes through, because lining all the new cards takes time.
There's also a few decks that aren't staples of set 2 that have popped up, especially there's a deck here from set 1 that top 8'd that isn't a staple.
Yes, absolutely.
But Palp Yellow was always really solid.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure
Palpatine in general
like
is
Palpatine.
Yeah, like Palpatine in general is just one of those really powerful kind of leaders that is always going to be quite powerful, and I think we're going to see him in set 3 quite a bit. And whether it comes through as like a Palp Yellow or even a mono Palpatine will be interesting to see. But the one we want to talk about is the one that came 2nd and 3rd on day 1. You also see it a lot in day 2, and that is this Django red list that is going around.
Django Tarkin Town.
Absolutely, and it's a very cool deck. It takes the kind of startings of what Kylo Yellow was. And sorry, the cat is just playing.
It was attacking my feet.
So we apologize for any interruptions. But it takes the startings of what Kylo Yellow did in set 2 and takes it to kind of the next level.
I think,
especially because of Django's kind of ability to tap down multiple things, being able to like kind of have a whereas you could see the Palpatine running stuff like No Good to Me Dead. Django kind of has its own ways to deal with those kind of things. And so a lot of really interesting stuff going through. Let's run through the deck list. So this deck list actually is very space focused.
Oh yeah.
Very, very space focused. Almost consider it a space race deck.
Very similar to the Kylo Yellow.
Yeah.
It's like it is all space yellow, space race. It relies on utilizing cards like Triple Dark Raid, and the benefit of this version, unlike the Kylo version, is obviously Fett's Fire Spray.
Yeah, Fett's Fire Spray is still around. Boba might be gone, but Fett's Fire Spray is still going to be a menace at your locals.
Revenge, but it's not as strong now. I think is the big
absolutely.
thing. It's definitely a great follow up, but you're not getting your opponent's not getting that flood resources and untap a bunch. So I think it's got the classics in here. You know, you've got Greedos, Daring Raids, the ISB turn 1 to do the ping Tarkin Town.
Yep. And obviously with Greedo, you can tap things down with his ability as well. So like swing into something, tap it, flip,
Ping something for 2.
ping something for 2, tap it. If Django's flipped, obviously. If not flipped, then you can only do one of those. But either way, very cool there. The ISB agent doing the same sort of thing, just kind of like dropping
reveal
him,
the triple, tap something
down, essentially. But like ping it for 1, tap something down. And then the triple Dark Raid is mostly there to just finish things off. There's a lot of ping in this deck with obviously like Tarkin. You got Tarkin Town. You've got like all the things that are pinging damage to utilize Django's ability, and Daring Raid is there to kind of like either start it with and finish it off with like Tarkin Town, or finish things off.
I think
all right, there's the last 2 damage.
Ruthless Raid is really solid because you play ping 2 when it dies, you get to ping 2 and tap something down. I do really like the one of main decked Vambrace flamethrower, because you flip Django, you put that on Django, and then it's pretty consistent, just like swing, ping, ping, ping. Swing,
and it's not one of those situations where it's like a necessary like thing that you need, like when like Boba's armor or something like that, where it's like you need to chuck it on every single game. This is one of those things where if you have it and it's the right time to play it, it'll be really, really good. But a lot of the time you don't really care about it. You're just going to resource it. But it's good as a one-off there, I think.
If you get it on Django and your opponent can't get rid of that, it kind of does shut down turns, because you try to consistently claim and then swing and just tap everything down. Yeah. And then I think one of the big ones as well is that P-38 Starfighter. That's probably one of the best cards from set 3. Yeah,
absolutely. As cunning villain cards go, this is up there with the best of them. And you might be thinking, oh, it's not crazy. Like, there's nothing crazy about it that makes it. This card essentially is a 3-cost 5/2.
Yep.
But it's better than that.
It's also and that's on average just in decks, full stop, right?
Yeah.
In this deck, it's a 3-cost 5/2 double asteroid sanctuary, pretty much, where you play it, you ping 1 damage and tap it down with Django, and then when it dies, you do it again. You ping something and tap it down with Django.
A lot of cards in this deck are going to be like, damn, that's really good. This card is the card that every single game you're going to go, oh, I just want to swing with my shit.
Especially when you pay 3. They triple Dark Raid it out to ping something to tap it down. They swing for 3 and then bounce it back to their hand, so next turn they can pay 3, play it again, triple Dark Raid. Try to ping something down. So this P38 is just really good.
Yes.
You're going to see it in like pretty much every yellow deck. It's one of the new, like that yellow Palp deck we were just talking about, doesn't have a lot of changes from set 1. One of the changes is 3 P38 Starfighters.
3 P38 is fantastic in Palp, because obviously Palp loves having 1 damage on things to be able to steal them, and this is one of those unmitigated 1 damage things that you can get, and it's even if it's you swing into something to trade and ping something on death.
I think this deck's pretty clearly, its goal is to aggro out in space. It runs 3 Surprise Strike, it runs 2 Breaking Ins, and the whole goal is just drop your early space units and swing, swing, swing. There's not too much to talk about Django Red. It's just a natural evolution of Kylo Yellow, because we saw that there was the Boba Red, which did this. Kylo Yellow tried to take that, and arguably Boba Red still did it better. And now we've got the natural progression where this is just a more hardy, survivable deck that can use Fire Spray. So ultimately, this is just that next step in the evolution. And it's really solid. I think it finished 2nd and 3rd on day 1.
Yeah. It absolutely did. And this is a deck that I personally think is going to be a strong contender in the meta. I liken this very much to Sabine in how it operates, in the case of you have to be aware of it, you have to be ready for it, but if you are, there's not a lot that this is going to do that's going to surprise you.
Yeah.
And yes, you get to tap down a few things. Yes, it might be a little bit annoying here and there, but the majority of things is pretty... they're going to play a spaceship, they're going to ping something, they're going to tap something down.
Yeah.
And you can, and I think this one's going to learn to be played around pretty quickly. and it's we kind of see that as the days go on, because in day 2 we see a lot of it, and in day 3 we see none of it.
Yeah.
So there's kind of that situation of there were a few people playing it. They did really well in the first 2 days, and then people started to kind of learn how to play against it, and it wasn't so prominent on that 3rd day, which is good, because it means that there is it's not boba, right?
Yep.
That's one of the big things
Thank
that we're
God.
seeing is it's not boba. I understand. If you play against it for the first time, you get absolutely trounced by it. You're going to be like, oh, well, Boba's still here. It's playing fights fire spray. It's doing the same thing, but it's really not.
It's not, because the Boba version of this deck would turn 1 ISB agent Tarkatan you, untap, and then drop a mercenary gunship or Kylo's fighter.
Yeah.
This deck can't do that. It can do one of those things, and that's the point, right? Like, one of those things is still really strong. They're only doing one.
Yeah.
That's fair. Now, next up, at 4th and 5th, we've got Tarkin Blue really making a comeback. This deck is not too fancy. The only new card in it is actually 2 Perilous Position in the Tarkin Blue. Yep. Everything else is just your good old-fashioned blue-green Imperial villain package, Super Commandos, Childsons, all that kind of stuff. And then just like your classic control cards, Ravels.
Absolutely.
Han 2 ECL, again, pretty much the same thing we've seen. Han Weenies, gotta love it, can't hate it.
Yep.
But next up,
we have a couple of ones that have done pretty well so far. And the first one we're going to talk about is Quinlan Green. I know you have a lot to talk about about Quinlan specifically.
So this deck is pretty interesting. I'm a big fan of Quinlan this set. I think he's a really good leader. I personally have built red-yellow Quinlan with now there are 2 of them. I think it's really fun. Yep. But I like this deck. This deck's really interesting. So this one is a more value-y mid-range deck, very similar to Han Green that we've seen in the past. Yep. But it utilizes the ping to generate value, and it utilizes just getting off incidental general value. It's a bit of a slower deck, but the units it has trade so positively. Yeah. So it utilizes cards like the droids, like R2-D2, Battlefield Marine, all that kind of stuff. The L3,
that we've seen
the new
before.
R2. But it tends to focus a lot on cards like transports. So the Falcons, the Bright Hopes, and it also focuses on items like getting value through getting items like General's Blade, and getting Hotshot DL44 out. So that's why it runs cards like, I can't remember, I think it's Commission. Yeah. Lets you look at the top 8 cards, get a Bounty Hunter, Transport, or Item, and add 2 of them to your hand, which is really good. And then I believe you put 1 card from your hand at the bottom of the deck. But overall, it's pretty solid. Like, you're running a lot of those general good hero pieces. Yeah. Bright Hopes, Home Ones, Falcons, Hans, U-Wings.
Echo-based Defenders always in there.
Battlefield Marines. But then you're also getting in with stuff like Hu Yang now. You're getting in with stuff like General's Blade. And the point is you want to be able to resupply out, flip Quinlan, and then put a General's Blade on him. Yeah. And then suddenly you're like swinging for heaps. You're getting to drop your Home Ones early. You're getting to drop your Han Solos early. And after that, it's just Value Town, right? You're putting hot shots onto Han Solo to swing in for 8. To swing in for 8 with the first strike. Yep. So that your opponent can't stop you. But you've also got just a lot of good value, and the sideboard as well is pretty solid with the option to have techs and stuff like that. But we're also seeing
one of the interesting cards I see in here is a modded cohort.
Yeah.
Something that wasn't seen much in set 2, but obviously this deck with its ping sort of does the same thing as CAD, and where CAD has something like Forlom to kind of take it through. This is where it's doing that kind of job in this deck. So essentially, raid 2, but it's coming in as a 4/4, and then pinging 1 damage to a 4 cost.
Same with Han Solo and Plo Koon Kotoya, because Han Solo probably uses his best. Because you ping and you can put that unit into the bracket range for Han to just kill it, like Luke Skywalkers and things like that. You can
Luke
play
Skywalker,
Han,
huge,
Luke and
actually huge being able to kill Luke Skywalkers with Han.
Yep. Any 7 health just gets bodied now, so hitting Vader's, hitting Luke's, all that stuff. And again, Plo Koon is amazing. If you've got Coordinate out, Plo Koon can also kill Luke. He does die when you do it, but like that trade-off's not that bad because he has a 6 health, but still being able to go ping and then swing, pretty nice. But then, yeah, I think it's really good, especially when we're going to see shenanigans with now there are 2 of them.
Yes.
Being able to have a General's Blade on your Quinlan and going, okay, that's fine, swing, now I'm going to pay 6, I'm going to get Harnett. I'm going to be able to counter your Luke. So I think that's where this deck shines, is that people aren't ready for that kind of stuff. Not to mention as well, 3 Hu Yang is a big one. That card should not be underestimated.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people are like, oh, you know, it's just a wing leader, and you know, but it's not, because he's a 3/3 for 3, so he's great statted. When you drop him, he gives +2/+2 to the unit. Now, a lot of the
2/4 actually.
Is he? He's a 2/4. Still, that's solid. That, in my opinion, that's probably even
absolutely
better. He's got relevant keywords because I'm pretty sure he is a Jedi, and he's Republic. And you can the difference between him and Wing Leader, for me, are the stats.
Yeah.
Because he comes down and he buffs something up by +2/+2, and usually the person goes, all right, whatever, I'm going to kill that thing, and then you're left with a 2/1 kind of mid. You're not now. You're left with a 2/4 Jedi Republic, hard to remove.
And there's also the thing of, a lot of the time, Hu Yang can be a pseudo sentinel of sorts.
Yeah.
Because if they can't kill the buffed unit, they have to kill Hu Yang to stop it from being buffed. And so a lot of times what will happen is you'll play Hu Yang, buff this up, and they'll try to get rid of Hu Yang, but then you've essentially created a situation where you've just made a sentinel.
Because imagine this. Once again, we'll loop back to it. I've got Han Solo on the board, and I've got Hu Yang on the board, and he goes, Han Solo's now an 8/8. What are you going to do? Are you going to run into my 8/8 Han Solo, or are you going to kill the Hu Yang? You kill Hu Yang, and I go, damn, pay 3, hotshot DL44 from my resource, and then it just puts you in a rock and a hard place, and it gets these out consistently with commission, because you're able to early game dig. You're able to early game just be like, I'm just pay 1, I'm going to go search for this. And then when you get General's Blade on, you've always got the resource for commission.
Yeah.
Because you're able to spend that 1 less on the unit, and then you can use that 1 to play that commission. So
So General's Blade is one that is on attack. If it's attached to a Jedi, on attack, your next card costs 1 less.
Your next unit costs 1 less.
Costs 1 less.
General's Blade's very good. General's Blade's very up and coming. A lot of people like it. A lot of people are using it.
It's big in a deck that we're not going to be talking about so much, but definitely is around, and that is Anakin Green.
That deck's awesome. I'm pretty sure it also just gives +3/+3, doesn't it? Yeah. So it's just another on-curve Jedi lightsaber, essentially, with a more unique ability. And in this deck, very applicable. So this is definitely something I think I personally am going to look into playing. Very big fan of it. Got all the cards. Might as well give it a go. I've been enjoying my red Quinlan. So.
And you'll see this as a kind of common thing across a lot of these decks. And if you're worried about getting into this game, or you're worried about set 3, one thing you probably don't have to worry too much about. There is, let me count them for you.
2 legendaries.
There is 11 set 3 cards in this deck.
Oh, and there's 5 legendaries. 3 Falcons from set 1 and 2 home 1. But
yep.
Again,
and so no legendaries from set 3.
Nope.
So if you think that I haven't gotten much of set 3, I'm not going to be able to build these meta decks that are going to be going around, you would be very surprised. There is a lot of cards that are really good in common and rare that are going to easily get you through it. To give you a
bit of an idea, Plo Koon and R2-D2, arguably 2 of the best cards in the deck are from set 3, and that's a common and an uncommon.
One thing that I would maybe think of adding to this deck is actually the Wolf Pack's Fighter.
The 1 cost.
The 1 cost that can bounce a 3 or less, because having that and R2-D2 is a really cool combo that can kind of go off of being like, play R2, bounce R2, swing with R2, next turn, play Wolf Pack, bounce R2, play R2, and just start digging for the pieces that you need.
Yeah.
And obviously that's only going to be used against the like kind of less aggro kind of decks that you're going to be coming across.
If you're going to do that,
having those options as well is a really cool
If you're going to do that, you want to be swapping it out for the 1 cost R2, because the reason that 1 cost R2 is in there is literally purely in case your opponent drops a turn 1 play, you can be like, cool, turn 1 R2D2.
Yes.
Ping it. And then if you're lucky and have a commission, commission 2, if you've got a hot shot blaster, just slap that bad boy on the R2.
And this deck is already planning to do these sorts of shenanigans with home one. So the whole idea is would be play R2, look at the top 3, choose one, is it discard one card or is it?
It's discard. So it's pay 2. You discard a card from your hand, and you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, and you draw one of them. Now, interestingly, with this, just a rules clarification for those who might not know, you do not have to show your opponent because it doesn't specify what kind of card you're grabbing. It just tells you to draw one of them. When you draw, that's secret. So that's another reason that R2 is even better.
Yeah.
And he's a 2/4, and he's Republic.
Yeah.
He's
And then you can drop the Bright Hope. You have a Sentinel in space now. You bounce that R2 and you draw a card.
And then you play him again.
Huge hand advantage.
You turn 1 R2, ping something for 1. Turn 2 Hu Yang, +2/+2 to R2. That's a 4/6 on turn 2.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's amazing. And
very,
then you
very good.
ping something else, and then cool.
They take out Hu Yang to stop it from
But
being
they
buffed,
trade.
and then you Bright Hope it back and draw a card, and they're like.
But the thing is, doing that play with the 4/6 R2D2 is you've just pinged a unit for 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
So traditionally, you go ping 1 and ping 1. So their turn 1 play and their turn 2 play now have a damage. If they want to be able to get rid of that R2, they would likely have to trade both their turn 1 and turn 2 play into Hu Yang to kill him. And then you're still left with R2. You've 2/4 on your opponent. All the while, you get a 4/6 swing in between. That's so good. So this deck just wants to get value. It wants to get value big and crazy.
Big and crazy indeed.
Love
this deck.
Yeah.
Love the idea of it. And love what they're going with. Honestly, it's Green Hero is probably my favorite hero archetype.
Yeah.
I love, obviously we have it in there, Ewing Reinforcements, Home 1. I love that late game value that they have there.
So good. Speaking of hero, Anakin Blue. This deck has been really up and coming.
Has been real big recently.
A lot of people love Anakin, and you know what, everyone? You're right for that. Anakin is an awesome leader. I think at the beginning we saw a lot of people going Anakin's aggro, and I think people have quickly realized Anakin is not an aggro deck.
Well, it's mid-range deck.
Exactly. It's not an aggro deck. It's a mid-range deck. It has the propensity to go hard, as does any deck that includes Red Hero.
Yeah.
But you get to run these really solid mid-range pieces as well to compensate. Like, this blue deck is insane. And once again, we were told this, and it's really good to see it come to fruition. Force is a huge package in this deck. It's got Force Throws, Mystic Reflections, all of the Jedi Lightsabers, Luke Skywalkers, Obi-Wans. And then you get to use some of the really, really strong cards from the set. Not going to lie, guys, Perilous Position is insane.
Perilous Position is crazy.
Talked about it about 2 weeks ago on our what new cards are coming in meta. Perilous Position
is one of them to look out for.
We've played in a bunch of pre-releases over the last weekend and so. That card is going to be the strongest card in Sealed and amazing in Constructed. It's so good. And that's why this deck mains 3 of them.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing a lot of stuff come down. I love Quill.
Quill's
with
amazing.
how heavy blue this is, Quill is just really, really good. And you love to see it. One of the 2 things I do like about Star Wars Unlimited is we get this set 3 and you look and say, all right, what are my turn 1 plays for this red-blue hero deck? Oh, is it Arc 170 and A-Wing? Yeah, it is. It always is.
It always is. You've got the classics, Arc 170, A-Wing Sabine.
I'd say Red 3 is a menace in this deck.
Oh my lord, Red 3 is a menace. Red 3 is a huge menace. It's just gotten better every set.
Yeah.
And with this set with a strong hero focus, my god, it's so much better. Like it's amazing. I love as well. I love that you've got the Razor Crest in there to get the Perilous Positions back.
Yeah.
There is a deck that I've seen floating around that I definitely want to give a go, and that's Yellow-Red Mandalorian, and it pretty much revolves around recycling Perilous Positions and tapping 2 things down and things like that. So definitely want to give it a go.
That's interesting.
Yellow Blue Mandalorian. Yeah. It seems really cool. But man, does it work? And it works.
I feel like
in
you
so
could do a
many
similar
decks.
thing with on the villain side of things with Gar Saxon.
Yeah. You just perilous position something, and then just like keep recycling the perilous positions and things like that. So, but man, enough about that. Anakin Skywalker is a machine because you get to do this where you're dropping all of those value force units, and you're like, man, this is wild. Not to mention, he's a leader that creates wild breakpoints and pretty much can consistently trade into upwards into anything
everything
in the game.
Yeah.
And then he flips at 6, and you're like, and he goes, awesome. Have you dealt damage to my base? No? Cool. Have you dealt damage to my base? Yes? Great.
Yep.
He's
so this is I wouldn't say like as you said, this is not an aggro deck necessarily. It does have a lot of aggro pieces to it. It is definitely an aggressive deck. And it is an aggressive deck that loves nothing more than being aggressive, getting aggressed at as well, which is a really interesting concept where this deck actually wants you to be coming at it with everything you got. When this deck runs into stuff like control, it's still really good, but it actually has a little bit of a worse time because of Anakin's stat line coming in. Like 470 for 6 is a bad stat line base. So, but against an aggro deck, he's coming in at like a 6-7 or even at 7 or 8-7, right? And one of the biggest cards in this deck that is going to catch people off so hard, I'm 90% sure it's being run here. It is in the sideboard. But one of the biggest, like huge plays that I've seen people pulling off is the Bravado. Look at this guy.
That card is amazing. It's really solid.
With Anakin's, because he has Overwhelm too, a lot of the time what happens is he goes, awesome. I've noticed this a lot with the green version of the deck. They'll run stuff like Moment of Glory. +4/+4 for the turn. And they'll
overwhelm into something.
Yeah.
Bravado, untap, overwhelm into something
and just like do like 12 damage to your base and kill 2 of your units.
It's pretty huge.
Just be like, awesome, I'm like a 7-6. I'm gonna go 7 to base. Pay 5. Bravado. Untap him. 7 to base.
One of my favorite things about Anakin Skywalker is how well he utilizes Force Throw because he's a Hero Force Overwhelm leader. You flip him, you Force Throw, and then you deal damage to your opponent, and then you just overwhelm their unit. You swing in and overwhelm their unit. And they just go, alright, awesome. And Hand Discard is so valuable, especially when you're able to proc off additional abilities. And then not to mention, my god, if he couldn't already trade into things, putting a Jedi lightsaber onto something and then doing the +2/+0 to give them -2/2 and +2/+2. Woo! Boy.
And yeah, the -2/2 is just so good on Anakin because he's overwhelming over the top. So even if it's like in a lot of cases before, it was like, well, I was killing it anyway with the +3/+3.
I'm gonna destroy
now it's just now it's just really good because that's just an extra 2 damage to base. Which is wild. Obviously, Luke Skywalker. This deck is probably one of the biggest reasons, and the next deck we're going to be talking about why Luke Skywalker is shot in price recently. And what's happened with him and why he's going a little bit crazy. Because it's just solid. It's just super, super solid.
Yeah, and then 8th in this tournament in day 1 was Kira Green. I don't believe this one has anything fancy either. I think this is just another one of your...
Welcome, Kira Green. Back. You love Kira Green. Kira Green's still good. If I dare say it, I'll look at it right now and make sure. Perilous position,
It's literally just the same deck, just with 2 perilous position, because why wouldn't you? It's a control card.
Absolutely.
Day 2, pretty interesting. There were no new decks in day 2, but there were a lot of... No new decks that we haven't already talked about. But there was a lot of reoccurring. 1st, 2nd, and 4th were Jango Fett Red.
Coming in on 3rd/4th, both the same thing. was actually a Han 1 Yellow, which we know is a really interesting deck and a really good deck that has a lot of shenanigans that can go for it.
It is really good to see it still compete.
But
I actually myself was playing my Red Quinlan against it the other day, and we played about 3 games, and I lost all of the games with my new Quinlan deck. And it was very close in some of them, but at the end of that, I walked away going, you know what? It's really good that this deck can still compete, because we've played a card game where every set came out and the decks in the previous set weren't usable. You could never, they just weren't anywhere, and it sucked. But
we're seeing the Sabine ECL still be in this picture.
Ray
Han, Ray Tarkentown, and Kira Green, both Kira Green coming 8th both times.
And the Sabine ECL.
But still up there in the top 8. You can't discount that.
No.
But yeah, so day 2 was definitely the day of Django. People saw the abilities that it had in day 1 and went and made it themselves and brought it. But I think it was a group of people that brought this, and they were doing quite well with it. And I think just another one of them got to the top of that. Day 3, very interestingly, no Django. As we talked about earlier, it kind of dropped off. I'm not sure whether that group of people didn't make it to day 3.
Or the meta adjusted.
Or whether the people adjusted to that change. Unfortunately, I don't know what the answer to that one is, but we kind of see the same sort of thing coming through here. Sabine ECL winning it, Palpatine Yellow coming 2nd, Anakin Blue coming 3rd, Bosk Blue, a new addition, coming in 4th. We know Bosk Blue is quite an interesting deck, a very slow, grindy deck.
I gotta say, every color is represented in this top 8, and every type of deck archetype is represented in this top 8. This is when we were talking about what we wanted from a healthy meta, guys. This for me at least, this is exactly what I'm talking about. There's 2 Anakin Blues in there and stuff, but there's Sabines, Palps, Bosks, Quinlans, Lukes, Yodas.
Yoda Yellow was the new addition to this day, and a deck that is very, very interesting.
He uses my favorite card from the set.
Now there are 2 of them?
Now there are 2 of them.
There's a lot of shenanigans that you can pull off with now there are 2 of them, and a lot of targets in this deck that you want to now there are 2 of them out. This is, for all intents and purposes, the Force deck.
Yeah.
This is the deck that goes, hey, I'd like to play as many Force cards as I possibly can, and you're going to help me with that. And the 2 main there's 2 big things that let you get out big units early, and that is, now there are 2 of them. Playing something like the Grogu turn 1 or the R2-D2 turn 1, which I believe is Republic. Then dropping something like Kiani Mundi turn 2, both Jedi and Republic. Plo Koon turn 2. You're not going to be able to get that Raid 3 off, but still it's coming in as a 3/6 ambush on turn 2, and that is pretty great.
Yeah, there is 35 Force and Force synergy cards in this deck. That is a lot.
And then as you're getting in later in the game, you're also doing the same sort of thing with the Luke Skywalkers, with the Obi-Wan Kenobis. And to me personally, what I love about this deck, and I want this deck to do really well, to show one thing to people, and that is blue does not need 3 Fel the Dragons and 3 Vigilances and 3...
How many hard removal events are in this deck?
0.
That is 1.
There is 1.
Hello there.
That's not even hard removal.
That's true, actually. That's just a minus.
Yep.
This deck rocks. This deck rocks. So it uses my favorite card from set 3 and his favorite card from set 1.
And my only hope.
And it uses them really well. Imagine going turn 1, you drop your Grogu. Turn 2, you get your Kiadi Mundi. Turn 3, you get to swing with Kiadi Mundi and kill something. You can tap something with Grogu, and then you go, awesome, I'm going to tap Yoda. I'm going to take this Plo Koon in my hand and put it on the top of my deck, or I draw a card and take this Plo Koon and put it on the top of my deck. And then you go, pay 3. You're my only hope. What's this? That's a Plo Koon.
I'll play that.
And I've got coordinate because I've got 3, so I'm ambushing for 6 into you. And you've still got 1 resource left open for good measure.
What's really good about this one is that essentially like you're playing Grogu turn 1, turn 2 you're playing R2D2 turn 1, grabbing Kiani Mundi off the top.
Turn 2 Kiani.
Now there are 2 of them, Kiani Mundi, and you're like, oh, but hang on a second. You spent quite a few cards in hand for this one. Okay, so turn 3, your opponent's claimed. They go first. They play a card, and you go, awesome. I'm gonna just tap 3, play my Yoda. And they go, awesome. I'm gonna play this, and you go, oh, awesome. I have coordinate on Kiani Mundi. I'll draw 2 cards, thanks.
Yep. Now, not to mention that, I know I just said Plo Koon, but if you've got You're My Only Hope, you can get a turn 3 Obi-Wan Kenobi out.
Yep.
Because you can go pay 3, flip the top, Obi-Wan Kenobi, pay 1, boom. And then your board is like R2D2, Kiani Mundi, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Gross.
And
gross board state.
And the next turn, because you're drawing so much from Kiani Mundi, you're like, awesome, I've got another You're My Only Hope.
Yep.
I've got a Luke Skywalker in my hand. I'm going to kill that.
And they go, okay,
Luke on the top.
hold on. I've got this. I've killed. I'll just take care of this Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then your Kiani Mundi is now a 7/9 Endura card.
And if it took them 2 cards to do that, you draw 3 cards. And then they finally deal with it. They finally get rid of Kiani Mundi, and you go, awesome. I will flip Yoda. I will flip this card that I put on top. I'll kill that.
Yep.
And then I'll pay 7 and I'll drop Luke Skywalker.
Drop Luke Skywalker, yep. This is a awesome deck. It's really, really fun. I'd highly recommend checking out this deck.
Yoda's so
In
strong.
fact, if you would like to check out this deck, and don't mind waiting a little bit, next week we are going to be dropping our first deck tech video where we are going to be going through and building our own version of this deck. And yet we might not have all the cards for it, but we're going to be going over what we can do, what we are going to do, and everything that we can to make sure you make the best deck possible, and then you'll see it on the gameplay that week.
100%.
So get excited for that.
Starting
Go check that one out next week. But yeah, that is that Yoda deck, which is very, very exciting. As we move down, we see the Quinlan green again. We see the another Anakin blue. We see a Luke green there. Obviously, Luke green still going to be really good. But that was the first 3 big tournaments, all in one kind of convention. So same players, which does create a kind of echo chamber. So don't take this as kind of face value what the meta is going to be looking like.
Healthy, like that's really healthy.
But it does look very healthy at the moment.
I love that Blue Hero is just Force.
Yeah.
Personally.
Absolutely. It's really exciting to see this sort of stuff, and it's really exciting to have this kind of meta evolving around us where yes, Django Red is around, and you might be thinking, Boba's here, Boba Band did nothing. Boba Band did a lot. I tell you what, these tournaments
I can play so many decks now because he's not there.
These tournaments would not look like this if Boba was still around.
It would just
he
be
just
Boba.
wouldn't. It just wouldn't. And yes, it's going to narrow down a bit more than what it is into certain archetypes. It's going to narrow down into what can be done the best. But there's so much cool stuff happening here, and genuinely I will look forward to this a lot. There's a lot of stuff that can be really fun coming into it. If you're running into a Django space race deck, then there's options for that. We haven't looked into a lot of those options because of Boba and what Boba can do, but you could do a space-focused, Chewie Sentinel space deck that would absolutely go hard in those scenarios. Stuff like that Mandalorian fighter that gets +2/+0 when anything attacks into it. Sentinel, very, very good in those situations. Concord Dawn Interceptor. And then we've gained a lot of within blue. We've gained the Spirit, which gives things +2/+2 in Sentinel. We also still have obviously the 1-cost double blue +1/+1 Sentinel going around. So there are options that we haven't been able to explore previously that are now available to us because yes, Django Red is fast. It is. It will be fast and it'll hit you hard. That's a good thing. What it's not doing is being unfair.
Yeah, it is. You can deal with it. The leader flips on a curve and everything, but it doesn't play 2 to 3 things a turn.
Yeah.
It doesn't untap resources. It can't prevent damage. It's not got an overstated stat line. That's just how he is.
A lot of these space units can be killed with perilous position.
True. Like, yeah, like almost all of them can be killed with perilous position, and it's just gotcha.
So you're going to be seeing things if this kind of space deck comes in as like this is going to be the deck to beat. You're going to start to see things like Make an Opening come back. You're going to see things like Mystic Reflection come through in all these Force decks. You're going to see things like that.
Already running it.
Like that Perilous Positions coming through that can just be like, no, to these low health space units that people, and then we're going to be seeing them obviously like things like the Overwhelming Barrage coming through. That's going to be really rough in these in these Palpatine decks, whether they be these mono green decks. I know some people are really excited about, or whether that's yellow, whether that's red Palpatine too. Is a menace. And then obviously blue Palpatine is something that came to fruition quite a lot last set with the rise of blue. And one of the things is hopefully we've seen the last of, but I don't think we have, is the kind of like mono blue stall deck. Like we saw that Bosk blue in there as well.
That's
that
not
was
that bad. Like it's stally, but
yeah,
the mono blue is definitely where like those decks that just we've spoken about it before. The decks that don't really have a lot of thought behind them, and it's just, what do? I just sit here and I mill you, and the game goes for 50 minutes, and it's like that's not control. That's just kind of crap.
Yeah. But hopefully we've seen the end of that kind of running the meta.
We're in the era of the Clone Wars.
This, to me, this is an extremely positive showing. I think looking at these 3 tournaments that are starting out our route into set 3, I'm really excited with the possibilities we have in front of us.
Everything looks really fun.
It looks really, really fun.
I'm just so excited overall. Everything just looks so fun. I would, if I can give you a piece of advice, I'd say look at these lists, pick one of them, get into it.
Yeah.
Play it, have fun with it. Yoda's looking like a little treat, a little green man. If you want, pick up Quinlan. I've been having a blast with it. Or pick a leader that you went, I just can't play this because of Boba Fett, or I can't play this because of this deck. Yeah. And try it this set, because I guarantee you it's probably going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I know one that was big for a little bit last set and got completely blown out by Boba is Hondo Blue, which I'd be really excited to bring into set 3 and see what it could, see what it can do, because we know it can do a lot. But that is all for this episode. Check out the gameplay. We're back with the gameplays. We're going to be doing. Yeah. I'm going to be playing Asajj Ventress versus.
I'm going to be playing Nalase.
Nalase. So that's going to be an interesting one. Check that one out. Both of those decks are decks that we're really excited for in set 3. Nalase specifically is a really interesting deck, which I'm surprised was not in any of these top 8s.
Nalase what?
But in the end of the day, check out the gameplay. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you are interested in that Yoda deck, there's going to be a similar one going down. Check out our podcast next week, where we are going to build that deck live for you, and we'll see you next week. Bye.